I wanted to also share a story about Martha that few people know. When she was barely 18 years of age, Daniel Custis met her at one of the many dances that the gentry would have through the year. And she was barely 5 feet tall and 95 pounds, but she was very attractive and energetic and knew all the social graces. Daniel had approached his father numerous times. Where Martha was barely 18, Daniel was about 37 at that time, so about 20 years her elder, and generally men married in their late 20s. Well, Daniel had been looking for a match for several years, and every one that he brought to the attention of his very wealthy father, his father would say, well, she's not good enough, or isn't wealthy enough, or the family status, or would go down the litany of that. And so over 6, 8, 10 years of time, whoever Daniel brought forward was vetoed by his very wealthy curmudgeon father. So Daniel meets Martha, and all his friends encourage him to make another effort. And he says, no, I can't do that. I know that he will not approve. So Martha says, Daniel, do you mind if I talk to your father? Daniel, I understand, said, no one's ever done that, and that's not something that my father would stand for, a woman, and a young woman of lower status, talking to him. And she said, well, Daniel, if you truly want us to be together, then, as I do, then please allow me to speak to your father. And then he says, well, we can at least ask. And so he asks, and his father, well, all right, if a little lady wants to come talk to me right away. And so they arrange a time, and old man Custis is in his den, behind his desk, sitting in his chair, surrounded by as many books, which would indicate that he's very wealthy. And in walks this diminutive young lady. Yes, young lady, I understand you want to talk to me. And yes, Mr. Custis, thank you so much for letting me come to talk to you about your son Daniel and I. And then a conversation ensues. And old man Custis brings up most likely all the different objections that he's had for all the ladies that Daniel had brought forward. And we can imagine that she had good defense for all of them. And not only that, but that she spoke to her background of overseeing young children, of helping her mother run the plantation, of the background of the Dandridges and the Joneses, and how she would be a very good fit. And then after old man Custis's objections ceased, we can just imagine him sitting there thinking. And he knew that he was defeated, that he was undone by this little snip of a girl. And we could just imagine that he would break out into laughter. Well, young lady, I think you're right. My son deserves a young woman like you, and that he would give his approval. It wasn't but a couple of years later that Mr. Custis passed and left his son with Martha. They had 4 children, and was a blessing to his son. Daniel died 7 years later, and she became a very rich widow. I met her 8 months later. 10 months after that, we got married, and we're married for 40 years.